On Christmas Eve, 1945, a family of 12 in Fayetteville, West Virginia went to sleep in their home. By morning, the house was a pile of ash, and 5 of their children had vanished without a trace. No bones, no remains, just unanswered questions that would haunt their parents for the rest of their lives. This is the mysterious disappearance of the Sodder children. George and Jennie Sodder lived with their 9 children in a modest home in Fayetteville. On the night of December 24th, a fire broke out around 1 a.m. George, Jennie, and 4 of their children managed to escape. But 5 children, Maurice, Martha, Louis, Jennie, and Betty, remained trapped upstairs in 2 bedrooms. George tried desperately to get back inside to save them, but the staircase was already engulfed in flames. He ran outside to grab his ladder so he could climb up to the windows, but the ladder, which always sat in its usual spot, was mysteriously missing. He then tried to use his 2 coal trucks to climb up instead. Both vehicles, which had worked perfectly fine the day before, strangely refused to start. One of the surviving children ran to a neighbor's house to call the fire department. The operator never picked up. A different neighbor tried calling as well, with the same result. That neighbor eventually drove into town and found the fire chief in person. Despite the fire station being only 2.5 miles away, firefighters did not arrive at the scene until 8 a.m., a full 7 hours after the fire had started. By the time they arrived, the house had completely burned to the ground. Firefighters searched the ashes for the remains of the 5 missing children, but found absolutely nothing. The fire chief theorized that the blaze had been hot enough to completely cremate the children's bodies, bones included. But this explanation has a serious problem. Even in extreme heat, bones typically survive, even if fragmented. There was also no smell of burning flesh reported by anyone present. The official cause of the fire was ruled to be faulty wiring. This was despite the fact that George had specifically had his wiring inspected by the power company just months earlier, and it had been declared completely safe. Almost immediately, George and Jennie began to suspect their children hadn't died in the fire at all. They believed the children had been kidnapped, and that the fire had been deliberately set as a cover for the abduction. To understand why, you need to know a bit about George's background. He had emigrated from Italy years earlier and was known throughout the local Italian immigrant community for openly and loudly criticizing Mussolini. He also reportedly never explained why he left Italy in the first place, leading some to wonder if he had unfinished business back home. There's also a deeply unsettling detail from months before the fire. A life insurance salesman visited the Sodder home, and when George declined to buy a policy, the man became furious. He reportedly screamed that George's house would go up in smoke and that his children would be destroyed, as punishment for George's comments about Mussolini. Days before the fire, 2 of the Sodder sons noticed a strange man watching their younger siblings walk home from school. On the night of the fire itself, Jennie received a phone call around 12:30 a.m. from an unknown caller. After hanging up, she noticed the downstairs lights were still on, an important detail, since the fire was officially blamed on faulty electrical wiring, which should have knocked out power to the house entirely. She then heard a loud bang on the roof, followed by the sound of something rolling off it. An hour later, she woke up to the smell of smoke. A separate witness reported seeing a man removing what looked like a block and tackle device, the kind typically used to pull engines out of vehicles, possibly explaining why both of George's trucks mysteriously failed to start that night. After the fire, while visiting the burial site George had created for his children, the family found a strange hard rubber object in the yard, something Jennie believed had caused the loud bang on the roof. George later examined it and became convinced it was a piece of a napalm explosive device, similar to ones used during the war. Refusing to accept that her children's remains could have simply vanished, Jennie conducted her own experiment, burning animal bones to see what remained. Every single test left bone fragments behind. A crematorium employee even confirmed that bones typically survive even after 2 full hours of burning at 2,000 degrees. The Sodder house fire had lasted only about 45 minutes, and remnants of household appliances were found in the wreckage, meaning the fire clearly hadn't burned hot enough to destroy everything. Sightings of the missing children began pouring in. One witness claimed to see the children riding in a passing car while the fire was still burning. A woman who ran a tourist stop 50 miles away said she served the children breakfast the very next morning and recalled a car with Florida license plates parked outside. Another woman in nearby Charleston reported seeing 4 of the 5 children accompanied by 2 women and 2 men, all of Italian descent. When she tried speaking with the children directly, the men became hostile and refused to let her get close. Years later, George spotted a newspaper photo of school children in New York City and believed one of them resembled his missing daughter Betty. He traveled all the way to New York to investigate, but the child's parents refused to speak with him. In 1947, 2 years after the fire, George and Jennie attempted to bring in the FBI for help. The Bureau offered their assistance. Bizarrely, both the local police and fire departments refused the FBI's help. Desperate for answers, the Sodders hired a private investigator named C.C. Tinsley. Tinsley made a shocking discovery. One of the members of the coroner's jury, the group that had officially ruled the fire accidental, was the very same life insurance salesman who had threatened George months earlier. Tinsley also uncovered a disturbing rumor from the town's minister, claiming the fire chief had privately admitted to finding a human heart in the ashes and secretly burying it in a box on the property to give the family some sense of closure. When confronted, the fire chief led investigators to the supposed burial site. What they dug up wasn't a heart at all. It was a beef liver that had never been anywhere near a fire. In 1949, 4 years after the fire, the Sodders hired a pathologist to excavate the basement area. He uncovered 4 small fragments of human vertebrae and sent them to the Smithsonian Institution for analysis. The findings were stunning. The bones belonged to someone between 16 and 17 years old. The oldest missing Sodder child was only 14. The Smithsonian also concluded the bones showed no signs of ever being exposed to fire and likely came from the dirt itself, dirt that George had used to fill in the basement, not from the bodies of his children. Despite this evidence, the West Virginia governor officially closed the case, telling George and Jennie their search was, quote, hopeless. In response, the couple erected a billboard along Route 16 advertising their missing children, accusing law enforcement of a cover-up. That billboard remained standing for nearly 40 years. Theories poured in for decades. Some believed organized crime was involved. Others believed the children had been sold to an orphanage or smuggled back to Italy. A woman in St. Louis wrote claiming the oldest daughter, Martha, was living in a convent there. In 1968, 23 years after the fire, Jennie received an anonymous photograph in the mail, postmarked from Kentucky, showing a man in his mid-20s. The man bore a striking resemblance to their missing son, Louis. Same dark curly hair, same eyebrows, same nose. Written on the back was a cryptic message referencing Louis by name. The family hired a private detective to track the man down in Kentucky. That detective was never heard from again. George Sodder passed away in 1969, still searching for his children until the very end. Jennie passed away 20 years later in 1989. Sylvia, the youngest child who survived the fire, is the last living Sodder sibling. And to this day, she insists her brothers and sisters didn't die that night. Decades later, her family continues to keep the case alive, refusing to let the story fade into history. What really happened to the Sodder children that Christmas Eve? Was it simply a tragic accident? Or were 5 innocent children stolen from their family and hidden away for the rest of their lives? What do you think happened? Drop your theory in the comments. And if you want more cases like this, subscribe to Mystery Minute. We'll be here every week, digging up the truth.